guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about a very current topic that has been in the news and is affecting each and every one of us. So we have here with us today Father Steven Ojapah, and he basically has an amazing story to tell, a miraculous story to tell. But we'll also be discussing about the current Christian genocide that's taking place in Nigeria. So, thank you for coming to the show today, Father Steven.
Thank you, Ceci, and good day, viewers.
Okay. So, we would like to start with telling us a little bit about your background and how life was before and after you joined the Catholic ministry.
Well, I came from a very serious family of 5. I was born in Yola, Adamawa State. My parents were very devout Catholic. My mother was a Muslim before. My father was, of course, he was Catholic. And at some point, like some families go through difficulties, my family had some difficulties and my parents were divorced at some point. But basically, I grew up in a very religious environment, and my mother was very instrumental to my Catholic faith. I went to a minor seminary, and then I went to a major seminary. I was very thrilled. When I was in secondary school, I was thrilled by the personality of St. Paul. The fact that Paul was very academic and he was traveling. We read the whole of the book of Acts of the Apostles, and I think at that point I became curious about St. Paul. So when I was wanting to become a priest, I decided to go for a congregation that has to do with St. Paul. Anything that has to do with St. Paul. I think that's how I found myself with the MSPs. Okay. And since then it has been very wonderful. I began my journey in 2004. And I became a priest in 2023. And then my first assignment was to work in the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto. And I worked with a very holy priest. May God rest his soul, is late now, Father Steven Ojapah. My namesake.
Same name.
Yeah, so, but he is late now. And I became a parish priest when I was just 3 months a priest. And I served in a very lovely community called Kidnapping. I was there for not over, but at least 10 years of my priestly life. And then here am I.
Wow. So, Father has got a book which we'll be leaving in the description. That book takes us on a journey on how your experience in the hands of kidnappers. And this was in 2022. In May. So please, can you just, I know it's a bit traumatic to recount that story, but I believe that story would give a lot of people hope and a lot of people would relate to it for those who have had the unfortunate experience of, going through that traumatic period. Can you just tell us exactly what you remember and how you saw yourself in the hands of these militants?
The incident happened in Katsina, northwestern part of Nigeria in 2022. And my own kidnapping is just one out of the thousands that has taken place undocumented and unreported, by the way, in the country. The bandits stomped into the house around 11:40 p.m. 4 of us were in the house, and I just went to bed not too long ago, and I just heard a very big noise in the house, in the room. And when I opened my eyes, I just saw people with guns and machetes and cutlasses and knives. And they just said to me, "Katashi kaibaki, wake up, you have visitors." Now, that for me was one of the most traumatic incidents or events I've ever had in my life. So when I opened my eyes and I saw them, and they were asking me a very simple question, which I did not answer at that point. They asked me, "Ina father, where is father?" Now, many of them just know that there is a priest like that, but they didn't know exactly who the priest was. So that was why they're asking, "Ina father."
And you were quite young.
Of course.
So maybe they expected an older priest.
Yeah. So, of course, I didn't answer. And there were 4 men in the house at that time. myself, my assistant, and then two siblings, a boy and a girl, who actually came on a visit. So eventually, within 5 minutes, not less than 5 minutes, 2 minutes, all of us were rounded up, pulled out of our rooms, and then we began this journey into nowhere. And we trekked from that moment till the early hours
So were
of the
they
day.
armed, these men?
Well armed. There were over 50 that entered the house that day. Yes, over 50. And the ones that entered the house itself, maybe around 15 to 20. But the entire village was surrounded by these armed men. They were over 50. And when we came out, we saw them. The entire village was just like a military, high military operation. So we began trekking around that period until the early hours of the morning.
All four of you?
All four of us, yes. On the early hours of the morning, they now kept us in a particular hole, in a particular cave, for day to break and then for evening to fall. So we were kept in that situation, the four of us, with all the bandits in one little hut like that. And they gave us food, something that looks like food, something that looks like water. If you feel like peeing, you urinated, they just brought a bucket. If you want to do what, they just brought the bucket for you to use for anything you want to do. It was very, very humiliating. So we were in that situation until evening falls, around 6, 7 p.m. when the day was getting dark. They took us out again, and then we began another round of walking, of trekking. We trekked until the next day around 9 a.m. Between 8 to 9 a.m. That was when we arrived the next place. So all through the night we were just moving, yes, non-stop. And you can imagine the exhaustion, you can imagine the tiredness. So when we arrived eventually where they wanted us to be, one of them just asked us a very simple question: Zakushashai, will you take tea? And naturally, all of us were very tired, we were very hungry. Everybody just said, yes, Zam Shashai, we're going to take tea. Unknown to us, we didn't know exactly what tea meant. So they now came close to where we were and they began to beat the hell out of us. That was the tea they meant. So when they finished giving us the tea, after these 2 days of exhaustion, they now put chains on our legs, and we were in that situation for the next 33 days. So in summary, that is what happened. But within those 33 days, there were lots of negotiations that were taking place between the bandits and then the Diocese of Sokoto, where I was working. I don't know how to describe it, but it was one of the worst period of course, my life, because where they kept us, there was no shelter. Rain falls on us, it dries on us. We were staying in an environment where we were beaten by scorpions. I used to, as Nigerians, that mosquito bites are very scary, but I realized that mosquito bite was very friendly because we live with worse insects in that situation. And then at the end of 30 days, when they felt the negotiation was okay, they now came to say, okay, now we're done with the negotiations, you have been freed, and then all of you are going to go. So they came and they took 2 of us and they left 2. Now the other 2 they took, I wasn't sure where they were going to or whether they were going to. I just didn't know. So they now took them, and then they came back and said to us that the ransom they demanded for was not fully paid. So they had to start another round of negotiation to get the 2 of us out. Now on the last day eventually after 2 days, they came to say, okay, all of us have been freed and we have to go. So one of them now asked me a very simple question then, as we are going, will you still forgive us after all that we have done to you? At that point, it was very difficult to say. I was already, because all our energies have completely gone. And so when he asked that question, I deep down in my heart, I really meant it, and I still mean it really. And I said to him, well, I forgive you. And so he took us into another area where our negotiators could receive us back into the community. And after 33 days of this journey, to God be the glory, we are now out and free, and hoping that the country itself gets to that level of freedom, which I'm not sure we're there yet.
Exactly. It must be really difficult to recount everything that happened, and it just makes you so sad at the fact that the heart of man, as the Bible says, is desperately wicked. During your time in captivity, how were you able to even say to him, the man who asked you if he would be forgiven, how were you able to hold on to your faith at that time? How were you able to just look up to God and still believe in your faith?
So when bad things happen to us, sometimes we marvel at how God can send his strength for us to overcome those kind of moments. We had real moments of prayer, even though we were between life and death, but we were always praying. Certain prayers or certain psalms that never made sense to me became very much alive. It became a powerful weapon. And I can mention one or two of those psalms. Psalm 23 is one of the most life-giving scriptural passages I've ever come across. Yes. Psalm 91. These are very, very extraordinarily powerful words of scriptures. So those scriptural passages had the way of making you face those terrible periods with grace and with hope. And my biggest worry with them, because there are so many times they threaten to kill us. After 3 weeks of our stay, one of them came to say that, the negotiation is not going their way, so they have to kill one person to send the pictures home. And so they came to ask the four of us, so among the four of us, who are they going to kill? Because I know they came for me, I looked at them. They came in the morning. I looked at them and said to them, well, I will go. They said, am I sure? I said, no problem. So they came in the evening and they said to me, Father, are you ready? I said, no problem, I'm ready. So they asked me to stand up and tell my colleagues goodbye. And I stood up, I said goodbye to them, and I blessed them. And I encouraged them to please stay strong and make sure that they all get home. And I was going down the drain, so we were going in that path before one of them just simply said, oh, Father, Kakoma, in other words, come back. And so when I heard those words, I didn't know whether I was still alive, whether I was still there or not. And but my biggest worry around those periods was to say that God, it's obvious that at some point I was going to die, but let me not die denying Jesus. That was my biggest prayer. Because there are so many times they told me, if you just convert, you'll be fine.
They told you that?
Yeah, of course, severally. So I now said to myself, the threat of conversion was not a problem for me, but when they bring knife and put on your throat, are you still able to withstand to that moment? That was just my biggest prayer, and I prayed that, please God, let me have the courage, to just say, well, I choose to die as a priest and as a Christian. So I think in the midst of all of those things, I must say that I had this extraordinary grace, not from me, but certainly from above, to be able to go through. So when I saw one of them say to me, do you still forgive us? I knew that this is not the normal human being is full of love, compassion, mercy, forgiveness, and all that. So, but this other part that is violent is certainly not him. So when he now said to me, do you still forgive, or can you still forgive us after all that we've done to you? I feel this is human. This part of him is actually human. He's at this point he's feeling he is not doing the right thing to a fellow human being, and that's why he's seeking forgiveness. And I felt, as a priest, how else do I put into practice what I've been preaching, if not to say to him, yes, I do. I may be hurt. I may have, the situation may have put so many other family, friends into a lot of trouble, but the best thing is to do is just to still say, well, I still forgive. And I think it wasn't easy because it was something that came from above, not from me as a person.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think your book has even more details about everything that happened, and it basically takes you on a journey, because a lot of people go through this and unfortunately don't come out with the opportunity to tell their story, because a lot of them die. And I think that's what we see a lot in Nigeria, where a lot of things are going undocumented. Statistics are not really reflecting the true state of affairs. And that brings us to the current Christian genocide, which has managed to make its way into the media. This has been happening, it's been happening for a long time. I mean, it's been happening for decades actually. But it made its way, when I spoke to you earlier about an American Arab journalist that had gone undercover and had basically had a lot of intel concerning this, and that particular footage or that particular piece of content he made went viral, and a lot of people were talking about it now. Now, obviously, it's in the hand of the American president also has put his 2 cents about it. So I think you are one of the people in the best position to talk about this, because your book and your story has managed to make its way even to Pope Francis before he passed. And your book has managed to make it even to the UN, when we're talking about different countries as well, Nigeria, countries in Africa, you just recently told me Australia. So it means that story actually has a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
So talking about this Christian genocide happening in Nigeria, how do you see it, and how do you see it possibly coming to an end?
I don't know how to describe how I feel, to be honest. But as a person who have gone through this kind of violence, and I'm not speaking as a diplomat or as one distant person. When I was in that situation on chains, when I was living on the ground with scorpions, at that point, I'm not conscious of who is coming or who is not coming. All I wanted to be was to be saved from that situation. And at that point, the Nigerian government did not, I'm not sure the Nigerian government looked for me. I'm not sure if they did. I'm not sure of that. I am not sure. Even after I came out, I didn't receive any visit from any state official. I'm not even sure I was part of their data, so to say.
Goodness.
So for me as a person in that situation, I was a nobody.
And you were alone.
Well, what do you mean I was alone?
When I say you were alone, it was basically just you looking after you.
Absolutely, yes. So to talk about the whole thing about the Christian genocide in Nigeria, I think the only thing that is missing is just to upgrade the genocide. Maybe it's not the genocide of the Christians. It is actually also genocide by our Muslim brothers and sisters, because it is bigger than even what Trump said. Trump even said it in a very narrow way, but it actually is bigger than what Trump said. And in all honesty, I want to personally say thank you to President Trump. I don't care what people will say or how they will take it, but I know that he has woken everybody in the country.
Yes.
So many people have certainly woken up. Every voice is now being heard, both the good and the bad and the ugly. Those who support Trump, those who don't support Trump. At least everybody is now waking up. It's not talking about it, which is exactly my exactly, because I signed a copy of this book to Kemi Badenoch, by the way.
Yes.
I sent her a copy. The office responded to me. I sent a copy to late Pope Francis. I sent a copy of the book to Pope Leo. I sent a copy of the book to President Trump. And so my idea is to be able to get people, because I know if I send a tweet, nobody will take me serious. But I know there are people that will take this in serious.
Yes.
And you can see that what is happening in Nigeria is a concerted effort by everybody, especially those who have personally felt the pain of all of these things. There are people that have lost husbands, wives, children. One of the person that was kidnapped with us said to me at some point, when they paid 12 million, and the bandits were still keeping them.
So that was the bounty on your head?
In fact, no, ours was more than 12 million. But I'm telling you another story. one of the persons that was kidnapped with us, it was a pastor and an equal pastor with 3 of his members. Now, one of those members said to me at that point, he said, he doesn't feel like going back home. This is somebody who was staying with the bandits for like 3 or 4 months, but he doesn't feel like going back home. Why? Because he said the debt that the family have incurred, it is something they feel they cannot pay. So they even prefer to even stay with the bandits. Yes, they prefer to stay and die than to go back and face the debt that the family have incurred as a result of raising funds to settle the bandits.
Saying it's not just Christian genocide we're talking about. I mean, it really breaks my heart to see where the country is, where we're having this high level of insecurity and certain parts of the government is carrying on as normal. America coming into this situation shouldn't be the norm, but unfortunately that's where we find ourselves as a country. What would you say is driving this? Because it's looking like it's not going away from, I would call it, from the time of President Jonathan. So what would you say is driving this violence? Is it poverty? Is it religious based? Or is it something deeper at play? What would you...
It's a combination of all of them. There's a report that just came out about some Chinese mining gold in Zamfara state.
Okay.
And those Chinese are supporting or giving some money to the bandits around that area so that they can be able to mine more gold around that area. That is one area. We also know that this is also about some of the resources around that northwestern part of the country. It's also religious sentiments.
Sorry, they're giving money to the bandits.
Yeah, so
to allow them
to do their mining.
And that's tapping and taking from the
and
natural resources.
It's a report that is online. I heard Adams Oshomole, a Nigerian senator, made a public assertion of this particular story. Yeah, so it's something that the top and the high and the mighty they are aware. So there is an interest of economic mineral resources around that area. It's also as a result of corruption. There are a lot of corrupt elements both in the government, both in the politics, both in the military, that are also feeding from this whole insecurity. Unfortunately, yes, for some people this is business. They don't want this war to end. They feel the longer it takes,
profiting from
they're profiting big time. The longer it takes, the longer the government keeps spending billions. The government spend billions on security every year, and then we're still in the same place. And then there's also the religious dimension. Now, the religious dimension is where some politicians try to manipulate. For example, in 2014, the APC I need the pictures are everywhere online. The Lai Mohammed, the former Minister for Information, he specifically mentioned the whole thing about Christian genocide taking place in the country. Yes, and they went to the American government, then Obama and Joe Biden, trying to paint Jonathan to look as if Jonathan was the one fighting or killing Christians in the Northwest. So at that point, it was cool for them to use the word Christian genocide because politically, they tried to use religion to be able to, press the buttons that will make anybody to wake up their senses. So, but we also know that some of those violent jihadis, religion is part of their driving force to do the things they do. But for me, the biggest part of this has to do with state failure. And I'll give you an example. I wrote an article on Daily Trust that talks about the golden rule. And in that article, I was making reference to the marginalization taking place in Zamfara state by Hausa Christians and in Igbo land by Igbo Muslims. Now, these are two minority groups having the same story. For the Igbo Muslims, they were talking about how they are being marginalized in the East because they are a tiny minority. And the same complaint they were having in the East are the same complaints the Hausas are having in the North. Now, this is where the state itself has failed to protect its minority. If you go to the northern part of the country, we're talking about genocide because sometimes we think about it's about the violence.
Yes.
The worst has to do with opportunities that have been denied. There are places that you don't have access to build your churches. You don't have access to admission because you have a Christian name. You don't have access to have. I mean, there are so many places like that in northern Nigeria. Once your name sounds a particular way, you don't have
Yes.
exactly. So for me, these are even bigger kind of genocide that is taking place in that regard. If you go to Kebbi State, you find the same thing. If you go, sometimes, for a very simple example was during the last Lenten season. Last Lenten season fell the same time with Ramadan. Some northern states closed their schools. When we Catholics were having Lent, but we could fast and go to school. But the northern part of the country, some states closed the entire institution for a month because of religious activities. So these are some of the things that are fueling those religious sentiments. Because if Nigeria is truly a secular state, you don't need two sets of rules for one set of people.
Exactly.
And these are the issues that are also fueling the kind of crisis that we see in the country at the end of the day.
That's terrible. Okay, so finally, Father, what message do you want to leave with our listeners today?
Well, I think it's looking as if hope is coming our way with the U.S. intervention. At least, if not for any other thing, it has made Tinubu to give us the sense of something is happening. Nobody prays that Nigeria gets invaded by any foreign nation. No, that's not what you want. But if the roaring of the U.S. government is going to make Nigeria more proactive, please, we are more than welcome. Let the American government keep roaring, because it seems it's working. It seems that so it looks as if hope is finally coming our way. Anybody who thinks that America should not come because it is not only Christians that are being killed, guess what? If the American can stop the bandits or the terrorists against killing Christians, be rest assured that even the Muslims will stop being killed. Because they are coming to stop the bandits or the terrorists killing a particular group. Is going to make the entire group or the country have peace of mind, because the same people killing the Christians are equally killing the Muslims. So let them not be there at all. Then we can be sure that either the Muslims or the Christians will have their life to live with.
Thank you so much, Father, for this discussion. We're going to be featuring Father Steven again on another topic that I feel a lot of people back home would be able to tap into that and find that hope, because we're all looking for hope and the way forward and how our country can become great again. So
make Nigeria great again.
Make Nigeria great again. Thank you so much, Father Steven, for
Thank you for having me, Ceci.
Okay, so we'll come back your way again with another thought-provoking conversation. On that note, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.